Yeah, I do. Yep. 7C. Seven C.
Ask it, so I didn't know if
Oh, you might think I'm a little girl, but I'm not.
You said that's a little girl? You did say that? Actually, the clock's slow. Patriots won. Patriots won in San Diego. Or in Los Angeles. That's right. Yeah.
All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to get our meeting started here. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Today is Monday, November the 1st, 2021, and we're going to begin our regularly scheduled Flagler County Board of County Commissioners meeting, and please join us in a pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as we do at the start of each one of our meetings, we ask that you join us in a moment of silence as we think about, remember, and pray for all of the brave first responders that we have here in Flagler County that serve us and keep us safe, the brave men and women of our fire services, EMS services, the men and women of our Flagler County Sheriff's Department, all the other law enforcement departments here in Flagler County. And of course, we can never forget and always need to remember and pray for the brave men and women of our United States military that keep us safe both here and abroad. Okay, thank you. Looks like we have a pretty straightforward meeting today, and look forward to some good dialogue and participation, and good information to share with everybody. In terms of additions, deletions, and modifications, looks like we don't have any changes to make to the agenda, but I do have a few announcements. First announcement is that a reminder that the county offices will be closed on Thursday, November the 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. Also, that the winning turtle that the our Flagler County employees got to name in a Adopt a Washback Turtle fundraiser has been named Seabiscuit, and I think that entry came from Julie Murphy. And as a result of that, money raised was, $58 was raised and donated to the Whitney Lab in support of their work. As we all know, they do great work up there and do research and contribute to conservation efforts and rehabilitation and education, of course. So many thanks to all of our employees that participated. An announcement of our upcoming meetings. We have a workshop scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, November the 2nd. That's at 6 p.m. here in the chambers, and that is regarding school impact fees. So we look forward to that. And then the next regularly scheduled meeting of the commission is set for Monday, November the 15th at 5 o'clock. So that is our items with respect to announcements and changes. I don't have anything else from an announcement standpoint. We'll move on to recognitions, proclamations, and presentations. And first up is a recognition and a little presentation entitled Milestone Recognition for Council Manager Organizations. And this is from the FCCMA, and I welcome Michael Gribos, and he's the Secretary-Treasurer of District 2 for FCCMA. And Michael, you're going to explain to us what that is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I have a quick little intro, and then we'll get to the certificate presentation. So I'm Mike Gribos. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of DeLand, and I serve also as on the Executive Committee as the Secretary-Treasurer for the Florida City and County Managers Association. And on behalf of FCCMA, we are privileged to present the Flagler County with the certificate celebrating 2022, because we're going into our 2022 calendar year, as the milestone for your 35th year as a council manager form of government, as recognized by the International City County Managers Association, known as ICMA. And for all that you're not aware about, the council manager form of government is a form of government that was helped to create a separate administration from the direct political influence and established merit-based practices within local government. It is modeled after a corporation's framework with voters who are like stockholders, which select the council, like a board of directors, who in turn appoints a manager like a CEO to advise the council and implement its actions through ordinances and policies. In Florida, nearly 70% of all 411 cities, towns, villages operate under a council manager form of government. And of the 67 counties in the state, all but 2 are professionally managed. Flagler is recognized as a great example of a council manager form of government, where you'll have a board of commissioners that work together in a professional manager to make decisions and establish policies that are in the best interests of your stakeholders. So on behalf of FCCMA and all other council manager communities within our area in the state of Florida, we want to congratulate Flagler County on this milestone achievement of being a council manager community for 35 years. So again, I'd like to present the certificate, and yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Oh, getting them.
Okay, moving forward, we'll move into our proclamations. And first up is we have a proclamation in recognition of World Diabetes Day, which is November the 14th this year, and also Diabetes Month, which is this whole month of November. And that was requested by Mr. John Subers from the Advent Health Foundation, and I've asked Commissioner Sullivan if he would read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome. Proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners recognizing November 14th, 2021 as World Diabetes Day and November 2021 as Diabetes Awareness Month in Flagler County. Whereas the American Diabetes Association estimates that nearly 34 million people in the United States are afflicted with or affected by diabetes, and another 88 million are still at risk for developing prediabetes. And whereas having diabetes elevates the risk of heart disease, amputation, kidney failure, and blindness, causing serious hardship for families across not only our country, but also our state and nation, county, but also our state and nation. Whereas diabetes screenings and self-management education will help individuals in the recognition of the symptoms of diabetes and provide an opportunity to follow suggestions for living a quality lifestyle. And whereas the International Diabetes Federation has established November 14th, 2021 as World Diabetes Day to educate citizens on ways to predict if someone is at risk for the disease, to help recognize the symptoms of diabetes, and to follow suggestions for living a quality lifestyle while they endure the affliction. And whereas Flagler County and Advent Health Palm Coast together recognize that the growing number of individuals with diabetes in our community make a strong case for devoting more resources to helping to find a cure, provide screenings, education, and support in the required lifestyle changes. And whereas Advent Health Foundation Palm Coast has formed the Diabetes Alliance, this alliance represents Flagler County Schools, Flagler County Health Department, Flagler County Free Clinic, Free County EMT teams, many corporate and private citizens that are all dedicated to beating diabetes. And whereas the Alliance will kick off November diabetes awareness efforts in Flagler County by flying the Alliance flag, hosting events, distributing education materials throughout the county to continue efforts to raise awareness in our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby recognize November 14th, 2021 as World Diabetes Day and proclaim November 2021 as Diabetes Awareness Month in Flagler County to increase community awareness of the risk factors and symptoms related to diabetes in order to improve the likelihood that people with diabetes will seek medical attention to avoid the devastating complications of the disease. Adopted this first day of November 2021, signed and attested by Tom Bexley, Clerk of Circuit Court and Controller, and our Flagler County Board of County Commissioners, Donald T. O'Brien, Chairman. Congratulations and good luck on Diabetes Month.
Thank you, David. My name is Tony Papandrea. I am the chairman of the Advent Health Hospital Foundation and also the Hospice Care Foundation. And once again, the proclamation kind of says it all, but it really doesn't say it all. 4 years ago, this didn't happen. This wasn't here 4 years ago. If Laura Gilveri were here, I would make her blush because she's the one who was the driving force behind this. And one of the lines that you read in the proclamation mentioned the hospital, the health department, the Flagler Free Clinic, the community, and the individuals. Do you know how hard it was to get the collaboration between all of those people so that we could stand here today and have Phyllis from the health department standing with the free clinic, standing with the hospital to have the awareness that's going on in our county? Yesterday we were all pink. Today we're all blue. And let's hope that maintains throughout the coming years so that we can attack this diabolical, devious, bad disease because it can be life-destructive. Phyllis, you want to say a few words?
Hi, I'm Phyllis Wolf, and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I volunteer with the Flagler County Free Clinic. And we serve the neediest population in our county. We have volunteers physicians, nurse practitioners, and other providers who are volunteering, helping to try to prevent diabetes and treat diabetes in the neediest population. We have people going out to our homeless population to try to help them. So recognizing diabetes, being aware of diabetes, how to prevent diabetes if possible, and how to treat it is essential to our population here. So thank you so much for your proclamation and your support. We can't thank you enough.
Hi, my name is Melody. I'm a registered dietitian. I work with, sorry. Okay. Hi, my name is Melody. I'm a registered dietitian. I work for the Flagler County Health Department, and I work in diabetes prevention. I teach classes, and I make people aware of how to really decrease the risk of getting this horrible, debilitating disease. So thank you so much for this proclamation, because we want people to be aware. We want to prevent it if we can prevent it.
Good, and thank you both. I'd like to recognize Mark Kilman, Dr. Kilman from Advent Health Palm Coast. Thank you, doctor, for being here. And we thank you, Board of Commissioners, for the proclamation. And eat healthy, stay away from it. It can kill you. That's all.
Thank you, Tony. Any comments?
Yeah, Chairman, I just read an interesting article, and I don't want to, I'm going to use a number, I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but within the next 10 to 15 years, 60% of the United States will suffer from diabetes. I believe that's an accurate figure. And so anything we can do to stop it, much less slow it down, is good, and God bless you all for what you do. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm not looking very good this morning, but I have diabetes type 2. It's under control. I've had it since for the last 20 years. But what I wanted to say, over the weekend, I had a little accident. I had to go to the hospital. And because I'm a diabetic, it does make a difference in how they treat you and how much, the fact I'm taking diabetes medicine and all that. It's under control, but still, it does affect you in many ways. Surprising sometimes. You have an accident and they want to know, what kind of medicine you're taking, and it does affect your life in many ways. So congratulations on keeping the push on.
And thank you all for, yes, thank you. Yeah. Want to make a motion on that, Commissioner?
Make a motion to approve the proclamation in support of World Diabetes Day and Month.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, that motion carries unanimously. And continuing with our healthcare sort of related themes to our proclamations today, we're going to have a proclamation on National Hospice Palliative Care Month, which is also designated for November 2021, and Commissioner Hanson is going to read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A proclamation of Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming November 2021 is National Hospice Palliative Care Month in Flagler County. Whereas for more than 40 years, Haven has helped provide comfort and dignity to thousands of people in North Florida, allowing them to live their last months, weeks, or days comfortably with the people they love. And whereas Haven utilizes an interdisciplinary, team-oriented approach to treatment, including expert medical care, quality symptom control, and comprehensive pain management as a foundation of care. And whereas beyond providing physical treatment, Haven attends to the patient's emotional, spiritual, and family needs, and provides family services like respite care and bereavement counseling. And whereas Haven provides community-based palliative care, which delivers expertise to improve quality of life and relief from pain, and can be provided at any time during the illness. And whereas an increasingly fragmented and broken healthcare system, hospice is one of the few sectors that demonstrates how healthcare can and should work at its best for its patients. And whereas every year 1.5 million Americans living with life-limiting illnesses and their families receive care from the nation's hospice programs in communities throughout the United States, including Haven. And whereas Haven is an advocate and educator about advanced care planning that helps individuals make decisions about the care they want. And whereas the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have pledged to put patients first in all of its programs, including hospice, ensuring a coordinated and patient approach to care, protecting patient choice and access to individualized services based on a patient's unique care needs and wishes. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby proclaim November 2021 as National Hospice Palliative Care Month and encourage citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of care at the end of life, discuss their end-of-life wishes with their families, and observe this month with appropriate activities and programs. Adopted this first day of November 2021, attested to by Tom Bexley, Clerk of the Court and Comptroller, and signed by Donald T. O'Brien, Chair of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners.
Is anyone from Haven here this morning?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proclamation of Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming November 2021 as National Hospice Palliative Care Month in Flagler County.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner. We'll make sure we get that proclamation out. And we'll move on to our third proclamation this morning, again, healthcare related. And this is a proclamation of our Board of County Commissioners proclaiming November 2021 as No Shave November month in Flagler County. And I'm going to read this proclamation. Whereas cancer has a major impact on society in the United States and across the world, and whereas among American men other than skin cancer, prostate cancer is the most common diagnosed cancer and the second leading cause of cancer deaths. Although prostate cancer incidence and mortality rates have declined over the past 2 decades, this year alone, an estimated 248,530 men in the United States will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and nearly 34,000 men will die from this disease. And whereas 1 in 8 men have a chance of being diagnosed with prostate cancer, and 1 in every 250 males will be diagnosed with testicular cancer, prostate cancer is likely to develop in older men, recognized as one of the most common forms of cancer in American males between the ages of 15 and 35. Despite these facts, 90% of prostate cancer is treatable if caught in the early stages. This makes awareness and early detection crucial. Being responsible for your health at every age and always getting your annual health check is a key part of making positive change for men's health. And whereas the No Shave November campaign encourages men to grow a beard for 30 days during the month of November, thereby becoming walking and talking billboards for men's health to raise awareness, encourage conversation about men's health issues, and raise funds for research and programs that combat prostate cancer and testicular cancer. And whereas educating the public and healthcare providers about the importance of healthy lifestyles and early detection of male health problems will result in reducing the rates of mortality from disease. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby proclaim November 2021 as No Shave November and encourage citizens to show their support of men's health initiatives by growing a beard for 30 days. Adopted this first day of November 2021, attested to by Tom Bexley, Clerk of the Circuit Court, and signed by myself, Donald O'Brien, Chair of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners. And I know, Chief Tucker, you know of what you speak with respect to this issue, so welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you, Chairman O'Brien. You know, obviously, men are not known to talk about our health issues. We tend to want to ignore them and just power through. But the reality is that men die on average about 6 years sooner than women. And, our goal with the No Shave November is to try to normalize the conversation, to bring awareness to the issue of testicular cancer and prostate cancer. And obviously prostate cancer is the second most common cancer among men. And so our goal, as the fire services is to continue to highlight this, just like we did breast cancer in the month of October. So we certainly appreciate your willingness to approve this proclamation and to help us bring awareness to this important issue. So again, thank you so much for what you do for us.
Thank you, Chief. So we have to wear blue and not shave for the month.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Blue is a great color.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the proclamation making No Shave November in 2021 official.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, that motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to grab a picture with us?
Absolutely.
This way we can. Okay, next up, we have some information and a check presentation that is a result of the fundraising that took place during the Creekside Festival here last month. So, Commissioner Hanson, I think you're going to do the honors on this.
Pastor, if you would join me up here, please. So last week, we had the Creekside Festival. It's the first time that our radio station ran it. It used to be run by the chamber. And it was perhaps the most successful Creekside Festival ever with regard to how much money we raised. I'm proud today to present Grace Community Food Bank with $22,500 from Creekside.
That's awesome.
Do a great job. This will help.
Thank you.
This will help. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I would, just like the.
Pastor, we know you do a lot in the community, but maybe if you could help us understand all the work that Grace does, so people understand that.
Sure. So because of COVID, last year we were up to 6,000 families per month visits per month. It's slowed down a little bit now to about 5,000 per month. So it's an ongoing process, and especially now with inflation the way that it is, this $22,500 will do for us the following. It's going to buy 125,000 pounds of frozen protein. If I give, and this is what we try to do because they can visit us every 2 weeks, if I give the family 8 pounds of frozen protein, it will cover 15,625 families. At an average size of 3.5, it comes out to 54,687 individuals that will eat off of this. It'll cover 3 months of our distribution of frozen protein. So that's a full 25% of the year. So it's great for us because it allows us to move some funds over to infrastructure repairs and things of that nature. But I want to thank the commissioners, the Parks and Rec, for allowing the venue of Princess Place for this. I think that helped a lot. And I want to give props to WNZF for doing such a great job. David Ayers and his crew just did a marvelous job for us. And to know that he's chosen us as the recipient again next year, it's a great relief for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor. Hospital.
And Pastor, I think that's a symbolic check.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think you
But I'm going to keep it anyway.
Yeah, don't catch that. Might bounce.
I'll take Dave out to dinner.
Pastor, thank you. Thank you for all you do. We really appreciate it. Yeah, we really do.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, Commissioner Hanson. Next up, we have a presentation entitled Criminal Justice, Mental Health, and Substance Abuse. And I believe we're going to welcome Ms. Carrie Baird, who's the Executive Director of Flagler Cares. Welcome, Carrie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for an opportunity to present some information on a project that we're working on. I have Brandy Williams, who's with Flagler Schools. Pardon me? I just said good morning. Do you? We have a presentation that we sent. Is that something that we could show? Thank you. So we're here to talk about the Flagler Youth and Young Adult Expansion Grant and give you a little bit of a history of this grant program over time and update you on the last 3-year grant we had as well. So the grant is funded by a fund source that comes through the Department of Children and Families. It's called the Criminal Justice Mental Health Substance Abuse Reinvestment Grant. It's been around since about 2008, and it requires 100% match. But it can be in kind. The Public Safety Coordinating Council has a formal role. They approve the strategies that are going to be submitted for grant funding. If anyone other than county government applies, they approve that applicant to be eligible on behalf of the county, and then they'll provide an oversight role. So we'll report quarterly on progress on the grant to the Public Safety Coordinating Council. To implement or expand a grant, you can apply for up to $1.2 million over 3 years, so $400,000 a year. And Flagler County has had a pretty good track record with this funding source. There was a planning grant in 2009 that was implemented, and SMA Healthcare has been successful obtaining this grant to start what is now known as the Crisis Triage and Treatment Unit. So they were able to get this grant for 2 cycles and then continue with other funding that program. So we've had some good success here in Flagler County. Just a quick timeline on the Youth Focus Grant. We had a formal planning grant in 2017 and 2018 where we looked at the children's system of care for mental health and substance use and identified key priorities. SMA Healthcare was the lead agency, and Flagler Cares conducted the planning work that year. We then successfully obtained an implementation grant that was able to fill some of those gaps and priorities that we identified for youth and make sure that kids who had behavioral health needs were identified as early as possible, and they received care coordination to be routed to appropriate services to make sure that they were stable. So we had SMA Healthcare, Flagler County Schools, Halifax Health, which is Flagler County's children's safety net provider for mental health, and Flagler Cares on that. We successfully obtained an expansion grant that started 10-1, where we took the pieces that worked really well in the previous grant and then expanded that for the next 3 years. Flagler County was the lead agency, so thank you all for agreeing to do that. We're also partnering with Flagler County Sheriff's Office, Halifax Health, Flagler Schools, and Flagler Cares for this implementation grant. A little bit about the funding. The planning grant that we had in 2017 was around $71,000. We obtained $231,000 for the implementation grant over 3 years, and the full $400,000 per year for 3 years for the expansion grant. So it's a great example of bringing state money to Flagler County to build capacity for our community. Wanted to provide you a quick summary on the previous grant and what we were able to achieve through that implementation grant. We served over 3,000 students that were screened within Flagler Schools for behavioral health services. 372 students were enrolled in this program as participants and received that extra level of care coordination and routing to appropriate behavioral health services and support. 87% of the program participants that have not been arrested 1 year after grant services, which is really the focus of this grant. The idea is to keep kids and adults out of the criminal justice and juvenile justice system and instead provide appropriate behavioral health services. 74% of the students improved in 2 or more school measures, and 100% of the grant funds were expended. So a little bit about the expansion grant. We've expanded the target population to match some legislation that passed in 2020 called House Bill 945 that really looked at 0 to 25 as a population of concern for mental health. So we've also expanded our population to up to age 25. We're continuing the care coordination that's provided in Flagler schools and by Halifax Health that is co-located here in Flagler schools. We've added some new capacity at Flagler schools. There will be an additional mental health practitioner who will work in the restorative school setting to support those students and also to help route kids to appropriate services when they're coming in and out of residential care or in and out of some other placement to make sure that when they come back to the community here, they have appropriate services. And we've also added 2 new staff people that will be hired and work for the Flagler County Sheriff's Office in a co-responder model. So if the Sheriff's Office staff are called out to a call where they anticipate that there's a mental health crisis going on, they can have a mental health practitioner ride along with them and help try to de-escalate the situation, try to maintain safety for everyone involved, potentially prevent a Baker Act if that is one of the situations that's imminent. And then they can also do follow-up afterwards. So a lot of times people might be more open to help after something kind of traumatic like that happens, so they can reach out the next day and try to engage that family or that individual and get them into mental health services.
So Carrie, there's a program over in Alachua County, I think that DCF was involved with. This is kind of modeled after that, correct?
Yes, it's really, it's a program model that's kind of catching fire across the nation.
Yeah.
And there are quite a few programs that are funded or starting up in Florida right now, so we're really trying to find out information from all of the other programs to see how best to build this one here. So yeah, I think it'll be a great new partnership between law enforcement and mental health practitioners to be able to address those needs. And I know Brandy leads the Flagler Schools portion, which has been really successful and continuing to expand. If you want to share a few.
I'll just share. We have 2 big components in the program that's really helpful. One is that Halifax care coordinator who we work with. Carrie mentioned, she's housed here at the building, and she helps us really be able to be aware of the students who are transitioning back into the school system after they've had a hospitalization so that we can support them. Additionally, this moving forward, the next 3 years, we already have our mental health person who's starting to work with the restorative school program, and we're seeing really great results there. She's able to really put some intentional practices in place with those students. She's seeing them every day for social emotional learning. She's seeing them every day for direct care, which is mostly counseling and therapy. So we're really excited to see how this builds over the next 3 years. So grateful to you guys for being willing to support this.
Great.
I think we have some questions, if that's okay. Commissioner Hayes.
Yeah, Carrie, there's been a rash in the last several months of kids, claiming to hurt other kids or have a bomb or do something. Is that something that you guys can help with or you're involved in, or how do you handle that?
I'll let Brandy speak to that. There's a whole system within Flagler schools to identify kids who have challenges and try to connect them with the right services.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about that. So we do have a system in place for that particular threat assessment process. It is state mandated that we have a threat assessment process in place. So each one of those threats are assessed using a counselor, an administrator, and usually law enforcement. They are screened. We are exploring intent. We explore all of the dynamics that go into that threat. And then at the end of the day, we determine whether or not it's transient or substantive, and then put supports in place for a student who may need them.
So what happens to those children? I mean, you counsel them and decide whether or not, I think I just heard you say, whether or not they're a real threat or whether it's just...
Yeah. Well, I mean, making the threat in general just would indicate that they definitely need some support, right? I think that this school year coming back into a system of care again, just being in an institution of a school has been challenging for some of our students. And so sometimes they are saying things out of anger, and sometimes they're saying things because they genuinely don't know what else to say in those moments. So what happens to them really is based on what the findings of the threat assessment is. If it's considered to be a substantive threat, then we put supports in place and then potentially offer them a program that is not offered on campus.
And I understand you track children after they've graduated from high school, they're aging out of the system. And how do you do that? How do you track them or take care of those people?
So it depends on if they're in one of our programs that really they're staying enrolled in schools. So we can certainly, we have
Get them in the program.
correct, if they're in our program, we can track them. Aside from that, I think that
Yeah, we
don't have
we do
anything.
collect information from Department of Juvenile Justice to look at arrests post-program. We're required with the grant to track them for a year. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Dance?
Good morning and welcome. A couple things. Since this is expanded to include young adults, I know you mentioned one, which is Baker Acts, which has been an issue. The other one is suicide. So how will this grant affect those two issues?
Well, I think the new component, the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, we have a great opportunity to have contact with young adults who are no longer in school. Maybe they're not working, but they have some contact with law enforcement. So I think that new capacity where they can do follow-up and case management, it's very challenging for kids who maybe have been served in the youth system and then they turn 18 and all of their insurance and funding and supports change. And oftentimes if they've had a connection with a behavioral health provider, they may lose connection. There are a lot of agencies that only serve kids and don't serve adults. So having that additional mental health capacity to help connect people to appropriate services and maybe help them get insurance if that's what they need, or Medicaid or something like that, so they can have continuity of care. So I think we'll use that, those moments of connection there with law enforcement to hopefully prevent engagement in the criminal justice system and to use it as an opportunity to connect to behavioral health services.
Some aren't. I guess that I know just after graduation, a lot of the young adults is where we've seen issues with suicide. I don't know if this will help that or not.
Well, I think we definitely, if there are students who are identified and then age out, and we already have connections with them, we can use those the staff at the Flagler County Sheriff's Office to maybe do continued care coordination after they're not engaged in schools anymore. Yeah.
Thank you.
our care coordinator at the school system here, that's part of her role, is to support them as they're aging out, to make sure they have services set up.
All right, thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Okay, next on our agenda is the first of our two community outreach portions. And again, this is a 30-minute time period allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. So we'll call community outreach open. Morning.
Commissioners, I'm Sally Arnoff. I live in Sugar Mill Plantation, and I wanted to take just a few minutes this morning to talk about the proportionate fair share contribution by developers. This has been on the books in Flagler County for many years, but it has never been used. And I wanted to do a comparison with our neighbors in Palm Beach County. They recently did a development of regional impact, and from the fair share, the proportionate fair share, it was contributed to the county $7.27 million. 99% of those dollars went for road improvements. They have also, in Palm Coast, they have a transportation impact fee, and that fee is $3,059 per home that they collect. So that is a considerable amount of dollars that Flagler County is not taking advantage of. Volusia County, they have a development that is 463 homes that has contributed $3 million in the proportionate share. They have another development that is 264 homes that has $2 million in proportionate share that was contributed to the county. And the third development that has been mentioned is 199 homes, and that contributed $1 million. So that totals nearly $6 million in Volusia County, 99% of which goes toward road improvement. And again, Flagler County has not taken advantage of any of that. My particular concern at this point is the intersection of Roberts Road on the north at Moody Boulevard and John Anderson Scenic Highway on the south. That is going to have 904 homes combined that have been approved for development in 3 different jurisdictions. One is Flagler Beach, one is Palm Coast, and the third is Flagler County. And my concern with that interchange is they rely on traffic studies, but it's a traffic study for the specific development without regard to what is contributed by the adjacent development. So you have a total of 904 homes that were individually identified through these jurisdictions. And the state, I spoke with the state DOT, and they are not involved in this because they only get involved with developments that have ingress and egress directly onto a state highway. So if you would just please look at and question as to why we are not taking advantage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harnoff. All right, next speaker, please.
Good morning. Greg Blesse, President and CEO of the Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber. My 2-year-old had COVID last week, so normally what I do on the Fridays that we get unemployment reports is I send you an email with the press release and share with you the numbers. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that last week, but since I planned on coming here anyway, I wanted to share with you and make sure we highlighted the very positive numbers that we had in Flagler County. Our unemployment rate reduced to 4.4%, which is the lowest it's been since the pandemic started. It's actually lower than when the pandemic started, which was 4.5%. We added another 304 jobs last month, and finally, we have more jobs now than we did before the pandemic started. So I think it's a really important opportunity for us to kind of hit the pause button on everything that's right in front of us and take a step back and say, wow, that was a pretty hectic 18-month span where we're fighting to claw back and grow the jobs that we lost because of the pandemic. So that's how long it's taken from an economic perspective to regain the jobs that we've lost from the pandemic. And as you know, the job growth has been uneven. We've lost a lot of tourism and hospitality jobs, but the construction jobs have come back, and there's a banking and finance types of jobs have already come back very strong. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this, but the big thing for me is that when I'm on these statewide calls with other chambers of commerce throughout the state, and I'm talking to folks at the Florida Chamber in Tallahassee, until last week's unemployment report, Flagler County was one of the slowest recovering counties of any county in the state of Florida. And so I think it's important to celebrate that we're finally back to even, so to speak, but also I think it's worth keeping an eye on the ball on, pro-business, pro-growth kind of things that we can do here in Flagler County to keep the momentum going. So I just wanted to stop by and say, we finally made it. Now we get another employment report next month, so we'll see what that says. But some good news finally for Flagler County, and we hope that continues to go in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else for community outreach? Welcome, Miss Amy.
I'm Amy Caratenuto from Flagler Humane Society. Just wanted to let you all know I was here to answer any questions regarding 7F. We're in the final year of a multi-year contract with the county. We have 3 different contracts with the county to perform various services as they regard animal homeless animals in Flagler County. In August, we reached our cap in our animal housing contract, which helps subsidize the cost our cost to take care of homeless animals. Then, of course, in September, we worked with the Sheriff's Department on a case that involved drugs and animal hoarding, which we ended up with 48 animals from that one source. So it hit us pretty hard. So we would appreciate if we are able to take some funds that are unused from one of our contracts and move them over so that we can take advantage of that money to help us with the animals that we took in over the last couple months and last year. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Just on that, since that's going to be item 7F, I wasn't going to pull it or anything, but you're happy with what's coming forward? Okay.
Okay. All right. Anyone else for community outreach? Okay, seeing no one else come forward, we'll close that portion and move on any comments, commissioners, regarding items on the consent agenda that you don't want to pull but want to make a comment about. And Commissioner Sullivan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll hold, I will be pulling something, but.
Okay, that's fine. Commissioner Mullins?
I've got nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Hanson?
Just a comment on 7N, it's about time. We're moving forward with Whispering Pines and equine therapy, and I think it's a good news story for the county and for them. So I think it's terrific.
On 7N, I had asked staff just to update us on the entire kind of timeline moving forward. This is kind of a first step, getting this agreement done, but if it could be additional information on how, what we're expecting coming up as far as different approvals and issues coming to the commission.
You want to do that now?
Good morning. If you want, I can real quickly tell you, this is a multi-step process, so what you see in front of you today is just one part of the process. Staff has already requested the survey and wetland delineation. We expect that back over the next couple weeks. We also will be submitting our application to the state for approval. That application has to go to the Division of State Lands, and that's for use of the property. We also have a local zoning requirement, a semi-public use hearing with our planning board, which is scheduled for December 14th. We anticipate that coming back before you guys for approval in January, probably January 10th. Once our wetlands had been delineated, we'll move forward with the Water Management District to get a stormwater permit. And we're currently working on the lease agreement, also tentatively scheduled to come back to you at that meeting in January 10th.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Any other items, Commissioner? All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Items that need to be pulled from the agenda. Commissioner Sullivan?
7C?
None.
Mr. Chairman, I have none.
None.
Okay, so it looks like we just have 7C to be pulled.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of 7C.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unopposed, that motion carries unanimously. And Commissioner Sullivan, you pulled item 7C.
Yes, make a motion on item 7C that we approve the reappointment of Jack Corbett and reject the reappointment of Mike Goodman.
Second.
In the mic, please.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to augment what was on the agenda to reappoint Mr. Corbett and not reappoint Mr. Goodman. That motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that item, Commissioners?
Is there background information that I'm not aware of, or?
Right, I can provide some background. Basically, my problem here is that Mr. Goodman is involved with a legal case against the county, and we've tried to solve that a number of times. So I figure he's been somewhat of a negative influence on the Planning and Development Board from what I can see, and that until that lawsuit is canceled, I think you always have a possible conflict of interest. And so until that lawsuit is completed, and established, I think it would be wise for him not to be on the Planning and Development Board.
Any other questions or comments?
Sean, do you have any comment on that?
I don't really have any other comment. It is true that he is a party to a suit against the county. If you have any questions, I can answer, but I don't have anything to add.
I kind of, it does raise some concern. I mean, we've got individuals that owe the county money, an extreme amount of money, and there's a fight to keep them at bay. And they come in and continually create chaos. There's also parties that are on that board that, I really think that board needs to be looked at closely, because we've got people on there, or a person on there. We got, for example, we've got a chair that's a real estate attorney and is doing deals with other real estate and developers, and I think that's a huge conflict. As we owe a commitment to this community to look and make sure that we put people on these boards that are going to represent all or as many as possible in this community and give a voice. I mean, our main theme of this community has been to shape our future while preserving our past. And there's a lot of times things come in that I think have a little more story to them than we're hearing or seeing. And one of them's been this Captain's Barbecue situation that came in that so much chaos when I first came into this board, where things were promised and approved. A lease was already signed without really looking at closely, and this board should have vetted it a little more. Also, the Whispering Pines. I think that was not very looked at very closely. So I think this board really needs to be looked at closer, and we need to be able to count on them when they bring it through, that a lot of this stuff is vetted and properly done. Another one is the boat storage. I mean, we had both parties come in and say they weren't happy with that side, yet it was approved. So, I kind of agree. We've got to look at this and be careful what we do, because this is a core of our community.
Any other discussion?
Can I ask, Mr. Moylan, in the past, I'm finishing up a project in which I'm working with Mr. Goodman. That wouldn't relate to a conflict in this issue. There's no money involved or anything in that regard, is there?
Is Mr. Goodman hiring you?
Yes.
You're under contract with him. I would recommend in that case that you abstain in this case.
Okay.
Even though the contract you have, I assume, is not something that's going before the planning board.
No.
Okay. I think the law allows you to vote, but Chapter 286 also allows you to abstain if there's an appearance of a conflict. So I would leave that up to you. My advice would be to err on the side of caution, take advantage of that ability to abstain based on at least the appearance of a conflict of interest.
Okay.
And I'll just say I support your comments, Mr. Commissioner Sullivan, for the reasons that you gave.
Let me make sure. I want to check with something. Now, I don't think this is a conflict, but when I ran, I did receive a donation or a campaign contribution. I'm not sure if any others up here did, but I did. But
No, that is not a conflict of
okay,
interest.
I just want to make sure.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll open this one up to the public. Anyone from the public wish to comment on the motion on the floor? All right, seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment, call the question. All those in favor of the motion to reappoint Mr. Jack Corbett and not reappoint Mr. Mike Goodman, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that motion.
Abstaining.
And we have an abstention from Commissioner Dance, so that motion carries 3-1 with one abstention. Okay, thank you. We will move on to, we don't have any general business, so we'll move on to public hearings. We have one item entitled 9A, and this is a legislative item. And again, I'll read it. It's amendment of Section 17-143 of the Code of Ordinances related to the review requirements for the education facilities impact fee. And Mr. Mengel, you're going to lead our discussion on this.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Adam Mengel, Growth Management Director. This particular section of the code, we looked at and we said, okay, we may want to do something here because of the language that's in statute now. Statute now, as you're aware, says that any increase in impact fee shall take place no earlier than 90 days after notice. And we looked at this and said, it's maybe sending two different messages here. But when we went back, and certainly I think some of our discussions that we've had internally had said, well, really we're not inconsistent with that language, because this particular section of our code says if you have any change in the impact fee specific to educational facilities, it shall take effect no earlier than 12 months. And so we presented this as saying, let's become consistent with statute. In reality, though, our language right now that we have remains consistent. We're actually a longer period. So if I could add maybe a little bit more confusion to it, we said, let's take the 12-month away, make it 90 days for consistency, but in reality, we're actually going beyond that with our language where we're saying 12 months. The problem I'm having maybe with that, if we take that 12-month stance, we have the language there that also catches us, the gotcha, most recent localized data. And at some point, how do you have your localized most recent data? Studies that often lead to an increase in impact fees are maybe a year old when they're published, and then you have an adoption, and then you have fees going into effect 12 months later. And I think there's still a good argument for us adopting this language that we've provided here, that it does the two things, 90 days minimum before it goes into effect. And then also we take away that engineering review record, that automatic increase that was there. And no doubt there were two options that were in the LDC or in the Code of Ordinances at 17-143. It could be that automatic increase for the engineering record, that inflationary increase, or other recommended basis for an impact fee. And what we're doing with this also is taking away that engineer record, that seemingly automatic increase, because I also believe that's inconsistent with statute. I don't think that that's a localized data source that we could use for consideration of this or a future impact fee increase specific to educational facilities. This does not affect any of our other impact fees. This is only within that section of the code devoted to that educational facilities impact fee. And likewise, this doesn't obligate us for any future action related to the school board's pending request for the increase of the impact fees that you'll be hearing hopefully tomorrow at workshop and then also in a special meeting. Because you approve this, or if you deny it, this does not affect anything that comes up tomorrow. And so with that, I'll close, await any questions or comments from you.
Commissioner Hanson.
When I read the state statute and then compared it to our resolution here, it's still fuzzy to me about using data that projects growth. Neither the state law or your says anything about that, yet the school board is asking us to do something based on a projected growth. But again, the state statute and your document here doesn't say anything about that. Is that?
I think that's a fair statement. I think that the statutory language is silent. Our language now would track past. It would track cost,
right.
and then
that's current data.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's and current cost data is what it's looking at, and then statutory language now is saying most recent localized data source. And so what we contemplated with this, and I think my overall assessment that I would tell you with the language that's in the statute, which I think is likely going to be tweaked this legislative session, unintended consequences, but I'd look at it and say it puts you on a track as a government, as a school district, to review impact fees, maybe not annually, but every 4 years. And so that you'd have this cycle. And maybe that's a good thing. I'm not saying that isn't. I'm saying that's something that we haven't done here either for educational facilities or for any of the other fees. But I'd be quick to say the same. I think your assessment's correct. It's not based on a projection necessarily. At least the language in the statute is not specific. This language is clearly not, but the language in statute just says most recent localized data.
Thank you.
Chairman, just on that, in reading this, I think clearly we need to change, we need to amend the rules for the 90-day versus the 1 year, based on the way I read. I agree with Commissioner Hanson that it is subjective on the rest of it, but I also agree with the 4-year point also. So is the point that Commissioner Hanson raised, does that invalidate what we're trying to vote on here today, or needs to be changed?
No, I don't believe so. I think statute is going to drive your future review, and so right now that limit's going to be every 4 years, right. And I think that we'll likely see some change that's going to happen in this session. That's going to, I'd say wait on that. But our action now, I think. If anything, what it does is it takes away that 12-month minimum language. To me, that's problematic, because if we adopt it today, it won't be any earlier than this time next year. And I think that the minimum 90 days, I think, does make good sense. I think that's something that by us making this change here, we're becoming consistent with statute.
Kind of important because we're getting ready to.
It is.
To make a decisions here, and so okay, good.
I'm not sure if it's a question, but in light of this and the way the market and the world have moved and the development process has changed, isn't it important that we also revisit the interlocal agreement that we have with the school district? I'm going to bring this up tomorrow, but I just figured while we're on the topic.
Definitely so, and we've had discussions here in probably the last easily about 4 weeks, not only at the school board level where they've got some changes that they want to incorporate into the ILA, and then also at our staff level where we've had similar discussions. And so I would anticipate that you'll see that coming back in quick succession once this is all settled out with the impact fee itself. And then you may see some other parts of this ordinance, of this part of the code come back also. We wanted to have this coming first because we think that this is a precursor for an action tomorrow. This will tell anyone and everyone when that effective date will happen, consistent with statute. Again, our impact fees, transportation, parks, they're all subject to the 90-day already. This language is not in the section of the Code of Ordinances specific for those fees. This is the only spot where we have it for educational facilities. I can't agree enough that I think we're going to be touching the ILA again. We'll likely be touching this section of the Code of Ordinances again.
So, the bottom line on this is this gets us in alignment with the statute.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Dance?
Yeah, I just, we veered a little bit away from the intent of these, which is just cleanup, and got kind of mixed up a little bit with tomorrow. But I think we're all on the right path, and I'll echo Chairman O'Brien's discussions about the ILA. I think that's important. I see some areas of improvement that can be incorporated in there, and would love to have that discussion. But on these, just cleanup, I agree. I think we owe it to the district to have that 90 days consistent with ours at least, and the localized data is part of what they're doing and what we used on our impact fee. So I'll make a motion to approve 9A, amending our Code of Ordinances for educational facilities impact fee.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from our side, commissioners? All right, we'll open this one up for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment on the motion on the floor regarding item 9A?
Hey, Greg Blesse with the Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber. Just wanted to say, to kind of follow up on what everyone here is saying, that the cleanup's required. So, no issues here from the chamber. To the points that you made, Commissioner Hanson and Commissioner Sullivan, about the assumptions that are included in impact fees, that's kind of where the chamber and the Home Builders Association comes in when we have a conversation about with y'all about what goes into it. So, but I think that's not for today. I think today is the 90 days and to make sure that the county's in a good position legally for whatever happens moving forward. So.
Okay. Anyone else for public comment on this item? All right, seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment, call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Mingle. We'll move on to item 10 with reports. Ms. Petito.
Good morning. Just a couple things. I wanted you to know that we've been meeting with all of the employees to discuss our change in leadership, strategic planning, and the shaping of Flagler's future. This has been going extremely well. We've met with about 2/3 of the employees so far. These meetings should be completed this week with meeting with Fire Rescue. We wanted to let you know that we had an opportunity to provide assistance to Putnam County. I had sent you all an email on Friday evening letting you know that we were able to help them with some of their broadband mapping. I just wanted to give a big thank you to Darlene and Joe and the GIS team for getting that done so quickly. We have a department head retreat scheduled for this Friday, November 5th, to start the discussions of strategic planning. I've been asked to serve on the SMA Healthcare Board. As you know, this is a nonprofit organization, and I would like to get consensus from the board as to being able to serve in this capacity. I think it's extremely important that we have a local presence on this board. Currently, there's only one other member from our community that serves, so if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to serve in that role.
Yeah, and Commissioners, just so you know, we've not had any voice on that board, and it is a big deal that we do, and I can't think of anybody better than having Ms. Petito.
I agree.
You know, be on that board. In the past, the only person that's ever served from Flagler County on that board was Bruce Page, the chairman of Intracoastal Bank, which is fine, but I really think we need representation. We need more than one, actually. So maybe you can get in there and start worming your way into with some additional influence to make that happen, because they do a lot of work in Flagler County, and they also have influence with Lutheran Family Services, and obviously because they're a contractor of them, and we have no representation there as well. So
I agree as well.
Okay, thank you. And I also wanted you to know that staff has reached out to Northeast Florida Regional Council to request a quote for updating our comp plan. So our data had been shared with them, and we're just waiting for a price to get that done. In an effort to improve our efficiencies and effectiveness of operations, we started moving towards a centralized purchasing and finance department. So starting today, we began moving staff from some other departments into finance, namely into the grants, contracts, and purchase orders, accounts payable. This will help streamline our workflows as we transition to the new Tyler Munis software in January. We've also been in constant communication with the City of Palm Coast and the interlocal agreements that we have with them for the Marine Land Acres, Willow Woods project, and the Malacompra sewer improvements. They're scheduled to go to them in a workshop on December 14th, and then a subsequent meeting for approval on December 21st. And that's really focusing on the added value to the Palm Coast residents as well as our entire community. So we will be in attendance at those meetings should they have any questions. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Petito. And doing a great job filling in for County Attorney Hadid. Mr. Moylan?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. I have 3 matters to report. First, approximately 5 years ago, an anonymous donor gave $200,000 to the Flagler County Library. However, at the time, there was no written agreement as to how those funds could be expended, and the money was deposited with the Friends organization, a nonprofit support group with the library, to hold in escrow. Much of the arrangement was verbal, And unfortunately, a lot of the members of the Friends passed away. They were quite elderly, and the funds just sat there. Recently, the Friends have sort of reconstituted, thanks in large part to our former PIO, Mr. Laundrie, and they're looking at these funds going, well, we need to do something. And so they obtained an attorney, pro bono attorney, who filed an interpleader action, that is something to force a resolution. Typically, an interpleader action is done by a financial institution, like a trustee who is unsure of who needs to be paid. So the Friends went to the court and said, we have this money, but we don't want to have to pay twice. And the judge was very much in favor of carrying out the intent of the donor, and it came out through discovery that the donor was in fact our former county commissioner, Alan Peterson. And I want to report to you that we finally did reach a settlement, and we got a written agreement, a very simple agreement. The funds are to be used to expand the physical capacity of the library within Palm Coast. There's no time limit on when these funds can be expended, so it could be with our main branch, it could be many, many years from now in another satellite branch, or it could even be used to purchase updated shelving that increases the capacity of the library. So it was good to get some resolution on that, and we have those funds, or they will be deposited shortly in the county's account. Secondly, the Old Dixie Hotel. As you know, the owners of the hotel, the new owners, breached their contract with the county by failing to give us $250,000 cash deposit to hold until they reached certain milestones. The attorney reached out to me last week and asked if that amount could be reduced. I'm not endorsing it, but under the rules of the Florida Bar, I have an obligation to present to you any good faith offers at settlement. When we came up with that figure originally under Mr. Cameron's leadership, the idea was twofold. One, holding $250,000 would motivate them to get the job done expeditiously. And secondly, should they fail to do so, we could use that money to demolish the structure and eliminate the nuisance. The attorney is now saying that since they've done a lot of the cleanup, they have removed the swimming pool, for instance, they've removed the litter and debris and done quite a bit of internal demolition. They are saying that now, if the county were forced to demolish the structure, it would not cost as much. They're asking if they can get an estimate on the cost of demolition and amend the contract to reflect whatever it would cost based on that estimate. Is that anything that you're entertaining?
Well, it does take care of the demolition part, but it doesn't cover the incentive part of us holding that amount of money. It certainly is an incentive to them to finish the job.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think along the same lines, I think what my concern is that it's going to cost a lot of money to recreate this hotel the way they're planning to do, and if $250K is that big a deal to them, I'm concerned about their ultimate capability to finish the job. So, I guess what they're asking is for us to come up with a new estimate on demolition, and then get back to them.
Actually, they said that they would come up with an estimate if we were even entertaining the idea.
Weren't they supposed to put this up or get this done quite a little bit ago?
Correct.
All right. So I've done a lot of construction in my lifetime, and they're not holding to their side, but yet they're wanting us to adjust more. And I think when you begin that, it begins a slippery slope of the deal all of a sudden gets really skewed and we go apart from it. I agree with Commissioner Sullivan. If that's a point of their concern right now, then do they have enough to do the whole project? We've dealt with a lot in that community, that area. There's a lot of history to it. That place has been sitting for a long time. It's been a liability. I think the county's been more than patient. In my opinion, and in my expertise in construction, we need to hold to the sand. The agreement's the agreement, and stay with it.
At what point did they violate the agreement by not posting the $250,000? What date was that?
August 20th.
August 20th.
Yes.
So we're in limbo from then until now.
Correct.
And there's no, are they still going through the planning process at this point?
Yes, they have given us a revised timeline. Under the contract, the $250,000 was not supposed to be a consequence, or I should say, it wasn't supposed to be punishment, but rather it was just, it was simply stated that if we hit this date and certain things haven't happened, you furnish us this until they do happen. And they didn't reach those milestones nor give us the funds, and now they're coming after the fact trying to revise it. They did give us an updated time schedule. I don't believe we've gotten any actual plans yet. No plans have been submitted till this date. So we are in a bit of a limbo, and based on what I'm hearing today, we will proceed as Mr. Hadid updated you the last time, and that is through the court proceeding.
Because we're past the trigger date, and there's no additional date to happen here from this agreement that we both agreed to, since we're past that August standpoint. So the only logical step for us moving forward would be to file a suit.
Yes, to add them to the suit and seek specific performance.
What is the specific, if they don't post the $250,000, what is the specific performance?
Well, one thing they were supposed to do is to completely encircle the property with a fence. They did part of the fence, and indeed there were some youngsters who went around the side of it to vandalize the property. That happened in the past several months. So in addition to the fence, they have to reach a certain, what's called a all-rough inspection, electrical, plumbing, I believe framing, and if I'm not mistaken, roof. So the contract spells out certain, the milestones they're supposed to reach before we would return those funds. Without those funds, we have right now in the court a nuisance suit. However, it is under the name of the prior owners. So what we have to do is to add them as parties and add a claim for breach of contract and ask the court that they adhere to the terms of the contract with those inspections. That would be the specific task that would have to be accomplished.
So unless I'm hearing otherwise, consensus is for Mr. Hadid to move forward with his process, and I don't think there's any appetite for wanting to accept a lesser amount.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the conditions that you spelled out. I fear they may find it's probably more than 250 to demo and leave the property in a cleaned and seated condition, and definitely would not take their bid. I think if it's ultimately falls on our responsibility to clean up, that should be something that we price. So there's some issues with what they proposed.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay.
My last item, Ms. Gavin, the school district attorney, reached out to me. She had written to the Attorney General's office with a request for an opinion regarding the recent amendment to the Impact Fee Act. And the question the school board is asking the Attorney General is who or which entity is supposed to make the findings of extraordinary circumstances in order to raise school impact fees beyond the phased-in limitations in the statute. The school board feels that they're the ones in the know. They know what their capacity is. They know their enrollments, that in the wording of the statute, they believe it's their job to make those findings. The Attorney General's office reached out to Ms. Gavin and said that in order to get an answer to that question, they would need a companion request from the county commission. As Mr. Hadid and I read the statute, we believe it is the county commission that makes those findings. Certainly only the commission can enact an ordinance. The school board has no power to enact ordinances, and impact fees are created by ordinance. However, to be fair, this is new language in the statute. It hasn't been tested in the courts yet. And the statute uses the term local government jurisdiction as opposed to specifically county commission or school board. So to be fair, it is a new statute with new language. Oftentimes that is when the Attorney General is asked to opine on the meaning. In order to, however, in order to make the request, it requires a motion and vote of our board, if you were so inclined, that we submit a companion request for an interpretation of that statute as to who makes the extraordinary circumstances findings.
Right, well, I think several of us want to talk. You hit the
Well,
button
I mean,
first. so-
to me, the obvious
Okay.
the question then is, does this impact what we're going to do tomorrow?
Even if we submit a companion request, there is no guarantee we will get an answer. And if we do get an answer, it'll likely be 3 to 5 months out.
Okay, Commissioner Dance?
I mean, it's new language. Our actions may help other entities in the future that propose impact fees. So I don't know that there's no downside to this, I don't see, and that it could actually help clarify the language as part of that process.
The opinions, keep in mind, the opinions are not binding. Like for instance, if we were in a court and there's a court order, you're bound by that. With the Attorney General opinion, it's not binding. However, it's highly persuasive. If we were to get a certain answer from the Attorney General and act otherwise, the court would certainly look very closely at that.
And there is a possibility I don't know how long depending on how this process works out, it could go down a path where this is extended through mediation or other possible scenarios.
That generates a question for me. If we come to an impasse tomorrow and the school board opts for mediation with us, is the Attorney General still going to want to weigh in on that question, and insert themselves or herself in that process?
Probably not. There's a delicate balance with Attorney General opinions. On the one hand, they like to answer questions when they see two different interpretations. However, they don't want to get involved in an intergovernmental dispute. It is highly likely that if we don't approve tomorrow what the school board is requesting, that they would indeed invoke mediation.
Right. Commissioner Hanson?
Speaking as a non-lawyer, it seems pretty clear-cut to me that the jurisdiction falls upon us for the reasons you stated, and for just the simple reason they can't do it without our approval. So it's moot. Thank you.
So I would think consensus is that don't see the need to want to make that request to the Attorney General, unless I'm not understanding everybody.
No, I think the only swaying that you placed in my head is if this moves forward, they're not likely, or in a path of mediation, they're not likely to weigh on it anyway. So it may just need to be we may need to wait or have somebody else do it.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Moylan. Okay, we'll open up the second community outreach portion of our agenda. Again, it's a 30-minute time frame allowed for public comment for items not on the agenda, and each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes. Community outreach is open. Seeing no one approach the podium, we'll close community outreach. And we'll finish up with commission reports, comments, action items. Commissioner Dance?
None today, thank you.
Commissioner Hanson?
Mr. Chairman, I have none today. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Mullins?
I have a couple I'll go over real quick. Just want to say this. I had a chance to trick or treat with Jesse last night, and we were highly recommended because Bunnell was slowed down a little bit with kids, and the ages are a little different to go over to Sugar Mill. And we went over there. What a beautiful community. It just exemplifies why Flagler County is such a great place to live and raise your families. The community, what they did over there, just the heart that they put into it, the safety that was there. I mean, I never felt my kids were unsafe or going to be ran over or hurt. I never felt like we intruded. It was the most welcomed event, and so many people there. I swear there was thousands of people. I mean, it was unbelievable. First time I've got to experience it. I've heard about it. But I've seen, I've also been in the R section and some of the other sections of our community, and Flagler County truly is a great place to raise your kids. I don't know if it's the retirees and the grandparents that just show the love because they're, or if it's the families, but I saw a good mixture of both, and just wanted to say thank you and publicly say thank you to that community. That's not an easy thing to put together. I do events, and that was a pretty incredible event. And I think you had mentioned you live in that community. Wow. What a great, I put it on social media, and people from all over the Southeast were going, where is that? We want to live there. So just talking about how great a community is, though, the community love. Also want to mention that Sotheby's has reached out to me, and I'm going to be putting them over to tourism with, I'm going to be forwarding them over to you, Commissioner Sullivan. Sotheby's is a auto group, and they're auto magazine, and they do big car shows like Tour d'Elegance and some of the other ones, and they've reached out. They're one of our corporate sponsors for one of our events in Augusta, the Masters, and they've reached out and said, hey, we're interested in Florida, and we know you're a commissioner down there, so I'm going to push them over to that direction. I think the hammock community would be a great area, or really anywhere. We got a lot of great areas for these high-end shows and auctions. So, just exemplifying again why Flagler County is the best. I also want to be aware and mention we have our Veterans Day coming up, and what a great community. We've got so many wonderful veterans, so many that work here and actually serve on our commission. It falls on a unique day. I always thought it was Saturday or a Monday, but it falls on a Thursday, and I think a way to honor a lot of our veterans that work for us and really just our staff in general. We got a great staff. I'd like to see if there's a consensus with the other commissioners to maybe give them, since it falls on a Thursday, to give them the Friday off. And I'd like to know from our county manager if this would be okay, if you feel like our staff's caught up enough. But I mean, I'm seeing them do some incredible things. We've had the last 3 months you've been here have been incredible. And I think what a way to honor our men and women. And if you're not in the military, you certainly have people that serve, children, brothers, uncles, fathers, parents, so mothers, which I've seen a lot of mothers in there as well. But I would love to see, is that something we could possibly do without impacting the county?
I'm sure the employees would greatly appreciate that, and I don't see it being much of an impact.
I'm just curious what the consensus of our other commissioners are.
I would take the lead of the administrator on that one. Commissioners? You have to abstain, Commissioner Dance.
I don't know. I don't think that applies. I think staff would appreciate the gesture. And again, I defer to the administrator.
Yeah, if Heidi says okay.
If I said it's okay, I just point out that isn't Thanksgiving a 4-day or not? Is Thanksgiving a 4-day?
Thanksgiving is another 4-day weekend as well.
That's pretty close to this one, and I'm a veteran. Okay, so I'm not. It's up to you. Basically, yeah. I think we'll go along with it, but it's up to you. But there are two. That puts another one. Then we have Christmas and New Year's. So you could do it, I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you feel like it's something we can do, then I think we got the consensus, so we'll leave it in your hands.
Staff would appreciate it. Thank you.
That's all I've got, Chairman.
All right.
Okay, Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, just a couple. Ms. Arnold, you had had a question, and I think it implies what we're doing with impact fees, if I'm not sure. I thought maybe you could, Heidi could give you a quick answer on that. I remember when she brought it up. And I have a couple more things.
I can talk, if you have a minute after the meeting, I'd be glad to talk to you about that.
Because I think it's good news for you. The other two things, we had COVID update after COVID update after COVID update in the last year and a half. Things are looking better now, so I think before the end of the year, it would behoove our health department and possibly Jonathan to give us kind of a wrap-up, not a wrap-up, but a kind of where we are at the end of this year in regard to COVID, because I think there's good news right now, and we put out a lot of bad news, so maybe it's time to provide an update on that. And veterans, and by the way, Sugar Mill is also a wonderful place to go by at Christmas and see all the decorations that they have at Christmas. They really do an unbelievable job. Oh, it's unbelievable. But you can drive through at that point. You don't have to get out of the car. But in any event, that's it.
Mr. Chairman, I want to point out, Dave, that in this morning's paper, headline, front page, Flagler County COVID numbers down again.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's time. I think before the end of the year.
For my item, I just wanted to thank the FBI in Jacksonville. I got to participate in a FBI Citizens Academy last week. That was, instead of in Jacksonville, it was held in the Volusia County Sheriff's Department training facility, which is a unique and pretty cool place. It was a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and we got to talk with pretty much all of the FBI, most of the FBI agents, the ones in charge, management-wise, came down from Jacksonville and gave presentations on all the different disciplines and areas that the FBI is involved with. And layered on top of that was some presentations from the Volusia County Sheriff's Department as well. So if you get a chance to do that in the future, I would recommend that. I was the only one for Flagler County that participated. There were 21 people. You do have to go through all the vetting and the security clearances to be able to participate, but I would highly recommend it. And Rachel Rojas is the special agent in charge of Jacksonville, and she's just a special person. She's actually going to be leaving Jacksonville and being promoted back to Washington, D.C. She's a real spitfire and a go-getter and runs an unbelievable organization from what I can tell. So just wanted to thank them for that opportunity. And the last thing I'll tell you about that is down at that training facility, they have a simulator that the cadets down there use, because if you didn't know, Volusia County has their own actual academy for law enforcement academy that they developed in-house. So, and they have a shooting simulator that simulates all kinds of scenarios, and it was pretty intense. And so I had asked one of the lieutenants down there if Sheriff Staley had ever been down, and they advised me that he had been. And this thing is so impressive, so I can tell you, commissioners, we might be asked for additional money at some point because he's going to want to keep up on that. But it's a very neat facility, and again, if you get a chance to participate in that academy, I would recommend that you do that. It was very eye-opening. So with that, I'll just entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks.